I've reached 60 years of age, and it literally took me more than 3 decades to truly understand the lessons I'm about to share with you. I'm going to walk you through 7 of the most significant errors I personally made throughout my health journey. My sincere hope is that you can learn directly from my missteps so you might avoid having to endure them yourself. Back when I was actually making these mistakes, convincing me I was wrong would have been incredibly difficult because I was trapped in a mindset of believing I knew everything already. I simply wasn't open to other ideas. So I truly hope you're in a more receptive place now. Embracing this advice can save you years of genuine struggle and discomfort. I sometimes wonder if I'm just someone who attracts hardship, but the reality is I've faced some very serious health challenges in my past. On one hand, I believe this allows me to deeply empathize with many people because I've experienced nearly every single symptom that most of my patients describe. I wouldn't call that a positive thing, but it's a fact of my history that now helps me connect. So, without further delay, let's jump straight into the 7 major mistakes I made, and I'll clarify exactly what I should have done instead. Mistake number 1: consuming 100 vitamins daily. There was a chapter in my life where I was taking even more than 100 vitamin pills every single day. And I'm not just talking about a few bottles. I mean, I had a veritable stockpile of supplements. I'd be driving along with my wife and say, let's stop by the health food store. Maybe they have something that can help me. We'd walk in, and I'd leave carrying yet more bottles of vitamins. I had accumulated a small warehouse of these things. I was dealing with chronic fatigue syndrome, severe insomnia, arthritis, and a host of other issues, and I was desperately searching for that one magic vitamin that would finally boost my energy and make me feel better. This cycle repeated itself endlessly because I was adamant about avoiding pharmaceutical drugs. I wanted a natural solution. However, what I completely failed to grasp at the time is that supplements only function optimally when your underlying diet is sound. My diet, frankly, was terrible. I simply wasn't consuming enough of the essential macronutrients. When we examine macros, we're referring to fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. At that stage, I was following a vegan diet and attempting to source all my protein from plants. My goodness, my body did not respond well to that approach at all. I could never achieve a feeling of true satisfaction. What I should have done from the very beginning is started each day with a solid serving of animal based protein. It's crucial to understand that the primary role of protein is to repair the body. A substantial part of our physical structure is composed of protein, and we constantly need to replenish it. A portion can be used for energy, but we primarily derive our energy from carbohydrates and fats. And my recommendation now is to source that energy from healthy fats, not from carbs. If I could travel back in time, I would have made fatty cuts of animal meat a central focus of my diet. Mistake number 2: jumping on the detox bandwagon. Colon cleanses and detox programs were immensely popular, and I tried them all. The critical thing to realize is that these protocols flush out your beneficial gut bacteria as well. They also deplete your electrolytes, which can be genuinely dangerous. Essentially, you're consuming almost nothing, maybe some fiber, apple juice, and a handful of vitamins. The core problem is that if I had simply omitted the apple juice, I might have entered a state of ketosis and could have potentially felt quite good during the process. But you should never attempt a cleanse or a fasting regimen that includes juice. I even did the so called master cleanse with lemon juice, cayenne pepper, and maple syrup. That was also a poor choice because your body can never make the switch to burning fat for fuel when you're constantly supplying it with just enough sugar to keep running. Consequently, you remain perpetually hungry. I would feel absolutely miserable the entire time I was on these cleanses. Unsurprisingly, I developed numerous digestive issues afterward. And it wasn't just colon detoxes. I experimented with intense herbal detox formulas. I can't even count how many times those powerful herbs made me sick for 2 full weeks as they released stored toxins that triggered a massive immune response. Suddenly, I'd be confined to bed, feeling ill. I vividly recall one instance where I attempted a gallbladder flush. I drank 12 ounces of extra virgin olive oil in one go. Before that, I swallowed a handful of beet pills thinking I'd just wash them down with the oil. That was foolish. I got it all in my mouth, drank the entire quantity of oil, and then it solidified right in my esophagus. I mean, I nearly died from that experience. Then you're supposed to lie on your right side for a specific period. Honestly, I've tried every variation. So, once again, that was a total waste of time and effort. What I should have done was simply adopt the correct eating plan from the start, perhaps incorporating a few targeted supplements. The real key would have been focusing on animal protein, vegetables, some probiotics, and maybe some cheese. That approach alone would have resolved so many of my issues. All right, mistake number three: I'll eat healthy after I graduate. During my college years, I survived on a diet heavy in carbohydrates, not to mention consuming very potent coffee. If I could only revisit that time and make different choices by eating healthily, which, by the way, wouldn't have been terribly expensive, I could have simply had eggs or sardines or similar nutritious foods. But wow, my brain would have functioned so much more effectively. I was constantly exhausted throughout college, struggling to study while fighting overwhelming fatigue, needing to sleep all the time. Much of that tiredness was simply due to unstable blood sugar levels, though I didn't realize it then. The interesting part is that as soon as I graduated, did I start eating well? No, I did not. Then I even went vegan for a while because I was convinced that was the healthiest path with all its beans and so called clean protein. That was truly detrimental as my entire digestive tract became inflamed and my health began declining even more rapidly. It wasn't until I eventually discovered a healthy version of the ketogenic diet that I started to genuinely turn my health around. If I had known about that dietary approach back in my college days, it would have been a complete game changer. Don't wait until you reach my age to alter your habits because the consequences will catch up with you eventually. You might as well start making positive changes right now. I promise you'll be grateful you did in the long run. Mistake number four: my obsession with right shoulder pain. This one is particularly interesting. I developed this fixed belief that I had a problem in my right shoulder that needed fixing. Consequently, I visited every type of therapist imaginable: chiropractors, massage therapists, constantly trying to work out the tension in my shoulder. I had a persistent, permanent tightness beneath my right rib cage that never went away. It was a constant sensation, and I had no clue what it signified. Right shoulder pain is almost always a glaring red flag, an indicator switch for your gallbladder and the bile ducts within your liver. I did consult several doctors after developing an ulcer, and they would just look at me somewhat puzzled, saying, "Yeah, I'm not really sure what that could be." The truth was, my bile had become sludge like, creating tightness in that specific area I kept pressing on, which then referred pain up into my right shoulder. The vital question to ask yourself is: do you truly have the correct cause identified, or could the issue be originating from an entirely different source? That's the essential lesson here. Mistake number five: dismissing intermittent fasting as nothing. What do I mean by that? Well, someone explained the concept of intermittent fasting to me a long time ago, and my reaction was, that's nothing. There's no substance to it. I completely dismissed it until I actually tried it myself and began viewing it from the perspective of our ancestors who certainly didn't eat every few hours. The act of constant snacking repeatedly spikes your insulin levels. Every single time you consume food, you trigger an insulin release. It's this pattern of frequent eating that creates a multitude of health problems, and it's far more significant than most people realize. All the grazing, especially right before bedtime, we are constantly nibbling. This is a very modern behavior. Our bodies were not designed for continuous grazing. The moment I began eliminating between meal snacks, not only did my weight drop from 201 pounds down to 185, but all the puffiness and swelling around my eyes completely disappeared. That was an insulin related issue: fluid retention. I had a rounded, full face. Many individuals who have a puffy face or swollen eyes are simply consuming too many snacks and too many carbohydrates. So, intermittent fasting, wow, that truly revolutionized my health. I recommend it for everyone now. I believe the average person should aim for just 2 meals per day, and some individuals would benefit from eating only 1 meal a day. If you're consuming too many meals, you're just repeatedly spiking your insulin. You might think you're experiencing genuine hunger when often it's not true hunger at all. It's just low blood sugar. You're running on glucose, and you can only last so long, maybe an hour and a half, before you feel you need a little pick me up, right? So you get stuck in this cycle where you're constantly fueling the body, but you're really just living on sugar. You never make the metabolic switch into fat burning ketosis. That's the entire purpose of this system, to train your body to comfortably go from one meal to the next without being plagued by hunger. Mistake number six, overdoing the kale shakes. I still have plenty of old videos on this topic. They're okay in moderation, but I was consuming way too many. I was completely hooked on these kale shakes. I was operating under the misconception that we needed an enormous amount of fiber in our diets. I managed all right up to a point and didn't perceive an immediate problem, but I am aware that overloading many people with fiber, especially through multiple large kale shakes, simply creates bloating and gut inflammation. If I could revisit that period, I would have started with a very small amount to see what my body could tolerate, and I certainly wouldn't have gone overboard with all the shakes. Furthermore, with kale shakes, you typically need to sweeten them to make them palatable, so you end up adding pineapple, blueberries, and suddenly you're incorporating more carbohydrates. It's not the ultimate health practice many believe it to be. Now, with that said, I am not against consuming plants. I'm not against combining vegetables. I believe most people can handle a moderate quantity, while some require smaller amounts. I personally no longer consume 10 cups of salad at once. I don't recommend it. I generally have about 5 cups in one sitting per day, but sometimes I'll substitute that with fermented sauerkraut, which I consume regularly. On occasion, I might still have a kale shake, but it won't be a massive one. I'll make a small portion, perhaps with a few blueberries. I am very cautious about excessive fruit, especially very sweet fruits like pineapple. And if you're considering having just a kale shake for breakfast, I don't advise it. If you're going to eat breakfast, make it a protein based meal. Don't opt for a slightly sweet, carbohydrate heavy item first thing in the morning because it will inevitably trigger hunger and cravings later in the day. Okay, let's move to mistake number 7, ignoring magnesium deficiency. One of the primary antidotes and preventive measures for kidney stones is magnesium. If you don't have sufficient magnesium, you create an imbalance with too much calcium, which can then bind with oxalates. And it's important to know your body produces oxalates itself. They don't only come from foods like spinach, kale, almonds, and chocolate. In my case, I did develop a kidney stone. At that time, I wasn't even eating large amounts of spinach or high oxalate foods, but I was severely deficient in magnesium. I had rarely, if ever, taken magnesium as a supplement over the years. Magnesium helps prevent calcium from forming stones, and that knowledge is a true game changer for helping many people eliminate stones, especially if one is beginning to form, and can even help shrink them and prevent future occurrences. The key is magnesium. But that's not its only role. I also suffered from persistent muscle spasms. Magnesium is fundamentally involved in muscle relaxation, and it acts as a controlling agent for calcium. Without adequate magnesium, calcium becomes dominant, leading to excessive contractions, and boy, did I experience severe Charlie horses and muscle cramps. For years, I also endured terrible insomnia and profound fatigue. So I was dealing with a significant magnesium deficiency, not to mention a vitamin D deficiency. Both were major contributing factors to my poor health. I believe one ancestral source of magnesium we've lost is from well water. Historically, people obtained magnesium from their water, and then suddenly, with modern water treatment, especially in municipal water supplies, that magnesium was removed. The lack of magnesium in our water is one of the significant reasons for widespread deficiency today. I have a free download I'd like to offer you. This complimentary resource is my personal daily routine presented in a simple checklist format. This is the exact routine I follow every single day to feel as vibrant as I did at 18, even though I'm now 60. I want to give this to you at no cost. You'll find a small link for it below this video. Please click on it and definitely download that guide. Now that I've outlined the major mistakes, let's discuss what you should be eating, the most vital foods for your health. I've compiled all that essential information in this next video right here. I strongly encourage you to check it out.